How'd you wind up getting Tony involved at the time? Your wife?
That was all due to Steve Austin. Um, Jerry Jarrett allowed me to have an office job, and I said to him, "Look, would be a great idea if we could have a wrestling school, and we could advertise it on TV." Well, we did advertise it on TV, and it was awesome. It was like almost the first wrestling school.
Right.
And I had to hold a seminar when everybody came because they wanted to be professional wrestlers. It was so new. The phone was going every 2 minutes, and it was like, wow, this is fantastic. I remember Jeannie, my ex-wife, telling me at the time, this was, you've made it, you've made it. Anyway, I held a seminar. I had about 400 or 500 people there, and had to hire 5 or 6 salespeople by the ring at the Sportatorium just to take in the names and applications for the wrestling school. Unbelievable. And this went on for some time. And of course, that's where Steve Williams came to light, who is now known as Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
And had great guys in the wrestling school, and of course he was one of them. And he stood out at that time because he already had the body. That was the main reason he stood out. Plus, he looked good. He had long blonde hair at the time, and I knew that he'd make it. He had a pretty good attitude back then. He was humble, and he picked up the moves a lot faster than a lot of the other guys. So that was the beginning of that, and he was my student.
Right.
He was my student for several months, and then they thought, well, let's use him, in the ring. And he had a few matches, and then it was Bill Dundee that came up with the idea, let's do the same thing, hey, student turns against teacher type thing. So he turned against me, said he couldn't learn any more from me. He's learned all he could, and that he's going to show me that he can whoop my ass. And that would be the deal. So he turned against me, student against teacher, and that started to hit home. And it was my idea to put him with my ex-wife Jeannie,
Right.
who he eventually married.
Right. Is there any bitterness for that?
No, not really, because it's my idea that he should come down
Right.
with her, and it's like I'm wrestling with him, and she comes down, and it's like, what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
And when I look across, he whacks me and he wins.
Right.
So that happened for several weeks, a few months, and then all the time in the back of my mind, it was my idea that I would bring my wife at the time, who was
Right.
Tony, in, and then there would be set off for this mixed tag thing again. The only difference being, not really difference, but slightly different, it was perfectly real.
Right.
She was my ex-wife, and this was my real wife.
Right.
So I think the reality holds a lot of interest for fans too.
Definitely.
When it's real and they know it's not just made up. It's like, hey, you want to see this? So that's how it started.
You guys did some mixed tag matches again as well.
Oh yeah, mixed tag matches for several months. I mean, like over a year. We made that last. So.
Now, I don't know if you want to talk about this. If not, we don't have to talk about it. There was a report of something that happened in Memphis with you and your wife, and it's a legal problem.
Not really. I mean, she was seeing Brian Christopher for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a story going around. I'll tell you off camera.
Okay.
But okay. Let's see. Memories of Global Championship Wrestling.
Global. Are we talking about the Joe Pedicino era, or
actually before Global, there was time before that you can talk about.
There was just trying to think about that, because I never did go and work for Joe Pedicino. I remember
it was probably after that. It was '93.
Yeah, there's a lawyer in town called Gray Pearson, who was actually Kevin Von Erich's lawyer, and they kind of fell out, but eventually the lawyer ended up buying, I believe, No, I'm not sure whether they bought from Jerry Jarrett or he bought from Pedicino. I believe he bought it from Pedicino.
Right.
Thinking back now, and I actually made friends with the lawyer. I'm still friends. In fact, he's my lawyer for my new venture, the wrestling rings deal. So
Right.
he was. He didn't know anything about wrestling, but he wanted to be a playwright, a script writer, which he did quite well, I guess. It was more along the lines of the Memphis style, you know, the gimmicks and the flowery stuff. But my memories back then were that it just wasn't the same as the old days. You know, it wasn't the same intensity, it wasn't the same reality, and it wasn't the same rough, hard fight that the Texas people just love.
Right. As far as WCW, before you went there, a while back, it was Starcade. You worked the World Cup Tag Team Tournament.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was good. I think I teamed up with Norman Smiley.
Right.
And I was against Conan and another guy.
Forgot who.
I can't remember the other guy.
I think it was Rey Mysterio Sr. Ray's shoot uncle?
Yeah, probably.
I think so. I'm not sure.
But I remember that was pretty good. I mean, they called me up and asked me to go along. And I like Norman Smiley. Norman's a friend of mine. He's been to England, and not at the same time as me, but he lived there for some time. And it was a good match. It was pretty good, but it was cold, you know. And at this period of time, it was like, I can tell a story within a match. That's easy. But there's nothing like, you know, telling a story on TV for several months and having the people into it. And so it wasn't quite the same, but it was just a match and a payday for me.
Right. After Texas, you went overseas, I guess, 93, 94, to work for, I guess, Nigeria, the promotion over there.
Yeah, in fact, I was the one that went to... in fact, I did a promotion. By this time, I was doing overseas promotions myself. I did a promotion in Lebanon and took some American guys. It wasn't my promotion, the Lebanese promotion.
Right.
They took American people, and we got to Beirut, and I remember landing in Beirut was you know, it was unbelievable. But they wouldn't let the American wrestlers in the country, so we had to sleep the night in the airport and then fly back the next day. But then they contacted me and asked me to do a Lebanon tour with no Americans because I was English.
Right.
You know? So I took Lance Storm. He was one of the guys I took. Took the Guerreros, and I took several other guys. You know, on the way back from that tour, which was a disaster, by the way, because we never did get our money, and someone got shot at one of the shows.
One of the workers got shot?
No, not one of the workers.
Oh,
somebody was shot. They did something wrong, you know, earlier on, and they knew he'd be there, and they shot him.
Wow.
It was terrible. They shot him and took him in the ambulance, and then I did an angle in the ring and also got took in the ambulance. And I was in the ambulance, and I thought, I shouldn't be here.
Right.
You know, that was
Bad karma.
yeah, bad karma because you know he really got shot.
Right.
I didn't. But anyway, on the way back from Lebanon, I met the managing director of Pepsi and Coca-Cola, 7-Up, Pepsi and 7-Up. And he owned the distribution things throughout Nigeria, but he was Lebanese. Because a lot of Lebanese people had fled Lebanon and gone to different parts of the world, and Nigeria, for some reason, is one of them. Anyway, he asked me if I would like to do a promotion in Nigeria, and I said, sure, you know, I'll do it. And he knew that I'd done the one in Lebanon, so he flew me to Nigeria several months later, and to see if professional wrestling would be good in Nigeria, and if so, where could we do it? So I remember getting to DFW airport. And then just before I got on the plane, I saw that, you know, Lagos, Nigeria is not governed by the FAA or whatever, and you go at your own risk sort of thing. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm going over here on my own for 3 weeks. But I got there, and although there's a lot of trouble in the country, or was at that time, they were so strong, so wealthy that I got first class treatment, and I had to go and tour the country to see if professional wrestling would be good there. And the only place big enough to hold professional wrestling shows was the football stadiums. So I went to check out, and that's soccer, by the way, not American football. So I went to check out the stadiums, and I went to the dressing rooms, and in every dressing room I saw WWF posters. And right there I knew I had it. So that was an easy sale for me.
Right.
And I took Kevin Von Erich, I took Jimmy Snooker, I took Tommy Rogers, Axe from
Bill Eadie.
Yeah, Bill Eadie. Oh gosh.
Iron Sheik.
Yeah, the Iron Sheik. He was a trip. The Iron Sheik would come down in the morning for breakfast with his curly boots on and all his outfit and tell everybody he's the Iron Sheik, you know. It was funny.
Tommy Rogers, I think, went over there.
Yeah, Tommy did, yeah. In fact, I talked to him last night.
Really?
He called me.
He worked WCCW a couple of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.